So, hi everybody, and welcome back to this Facebook Live. You know, Today it's going to be Tim van der Vliet and myself again. We're going to be talking about wearables and whether these things are actually good for you or not, and the different points of view, which is going to be really cool because, interestingly enough, both Tim and I have different starting points, let's say, when it comes to this. So let's welcome Tim on board. And just wait a few seconds here. We're connecting. Hi, Tim.
Hey, can you hear me? Wait.
Yeah, there you are. Perfect.
So let me put off that light.
Good. Fantastic.
Good,
There we
right?
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Good.
So, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm excited. Because it's the first time we part from a different perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's actually nice because like if people always agree, it's just some fun. Like a bit of conflict. It's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
A bit of
Friction.
stuff, friction. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. This is very true. And this is going to be cool because we're going to be talking about, again, biohacking. We're going to be talking about wearables. Are they good for you? Are they not good for you? Um, you know, it's an interesting conversation. So, shall we discuss a little bit about what wearables are to begin with?
Yes. I think that's a good idea because a lot of people will not understand. So yeah, please go ahead.
Do you have any wearables around you right now?
Do I have one on me? I do
No,
actually.
I do.
Where's the camera? Can you
There
see
you
this
go.
ring? It's an aura ring. So,
An Aura
well,
ring.
let me get it off so you can see it. Here, you can see the inside. So it's
Yeah.
measuring your heartbeat, your resting heartbeat, your sleeping pattern based on your breath. Really a few cool things, I must say.
Okay. And I have this one, which is a
Apple Watch.
no, no.
Oh,
Actually, my Apple Watch broke, and I decided not to get another one.
right.
But actually, I'd rather very much wear my regular analog watch. Um, it's really cool. But this is a Fitbit.
Right.
I don't know the model of it, but that's not so relevant. We're not reviewing
No.
devices, right? So the same sort of thing. This one will measure calories, of course. It'll measure the
Mm,
distance that you've walked or run, the stairs that you've
mhm,
climbed,
mhm,
the activity that you've had. It'll also give you your heart rate. It'll analyze your sleep, etc., etc.
mhm. Yeah,
So
pretty cool.
wearables are essentially devices that you, surprise, surprise, wear, right? And let me just say something. Zoran would be happy to answer your questions right after the end of the conversation. We're gonna make some space for Q&A. All right. So basically, a wearable is something you wear to make your life a little bit easier, or so they say. So this
Yeah.
thing measures your biometrics. There are other wearables that do different things.
Mhm, mhm.
This thing here is kind of an interesting device because I purposed it for different use. And this one doesn't actually go into the ear. It goes there, and the
Yeah.
vibration makes the sound go in through your skull. But what I use
Uh,
it for is I use it to do vibrational therapy into my own brain using my own binaural technology.
Interesting.
So that's I do a lot of neuro hacking and everything,
Hmm.
and I use this and I use some special earphones and stuff.
I want to talk
But
more about that, but maybe not
not
now.
today.
But
Not
I'm
today.
very triggered by what you just said. I didn't know that. So, yes,
Yeah.
after we hang
Um,
up.
After we hang up, perhaps yes. Anyways, so the deal is that we both come from different points of view here. What's
Mhm.
your view on wearables and why?
Um, well, basically, I've tried it for about 2 weeks,
Hmm.
and there was one thing that really makes me wonder. It's basically that if a wearable, if you have less than 8 hours sleep, your readiness, it's called at Aura at this ring, is like really low, and it basically says like, excuse my language, but you're fucked up. You have a serious problem. And it was very, I'm not a big sleeper, so I sleep, like the first time I wore it, and that's funny also. My colleague from the stock market was coming back. We have a investment fund together, back from Singapore after half a year. He wanted to drink beers, so I drank 5 beers, and I felt really crap. After that, like 5 o'clock beers, and then five of them without food. Maybe you don't feel so good.
Yeah.
And I slept that night, and I had a sleep of 98%, and the readiness. No, the sleep was 92, and the readiness 98, or something like that. So like almost perfect. And I was like, of course, first time I wear the ring, like, yeah, I'm good. Ego was like, yeah, man, I'm a hero. And then I
Yeah.
thought, like, wait a minute. If I take this seriously, I would drink 5 beers every day because my aura ring says that I'm doing good. And then I was wondering about the sleep because, some really famous and some of the people that I really admire, like, for example, Einstein or Nikola Tesla, two of the biggest scientists in the world, they were known for sleeping only 3 hours per night,
Yeah.
and then I thought, like, but, like, if I feel overstressed, I really need sleep. But if I'm in love, for example, and I'm very happy, I also sleep like 3, 4 hours and I'm good.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing I thought, like, wait, this is, like, it is based on averages, and I'm very much not average, especially when it comes to sleep and energy. I can sleep 4 hours per night and have enough energy, basically. And then, of course, after that, I went to Barcelona to give trainings. And for various reasons, I had like little sleep, and the readiness dropped from 98% to like 60 and 55%. And okay, I slept, like the first hour I wake up. I felt a bit, crunchy or whatever you want to call it, like not optimal. But after my yoga and a bit of breathing and singing on the street, this is a new thing I do to get over my shyness. And walking to the venue where I was teaching, like 1 hour later, I was full on and happy hormones were flowing through my body. But the readiness of my device didn't change. It basically said, like, you need to rest, you need to rest, you need to rest. And then I started, like already thinking, like, wait a minute, this is not, it's not just about sleep. I mean, sleep is very important, especially if you have stress. But if you have positive stress, you don't need so much sleep. So I felt already then it was a little bit too simplistic. Um, to cut a long story short, um, based on averages, but nobody's average. So I wore it for another week, but after that, I basically put it off because, like, I don't need a ring to tell me that I slept 6 hours instead of 8 hours. And especially not to remind me how bad I'm doing while I'm actually feeling good.
You see, that's an interesting point. I mean, I've worn wearables since I can remember. I mean, I had a Polar watch when they first came out
Right.
years ago, man. A heart rate monitor. Very simple, you just put the heart rate monitor around your chest and you wear the watch and it tells you
Yeah.
how your heart rate goes.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first ones, and it was okay.
Mm,
It did its job, it did it well, and that's
mm,
it. The novelty ran out after like a couple of weeks, and then I just had it, and once in a while I looked at my heart rate. And as technology advanced, I got more sophisticated with the wearables that I was getting.
mm,
Um, up until the point where my family gave me an Apple Watch as a present, a very
Hmm.
nice one, and
Yeah.
it's a nice looking piece of kit. I must admit, again, it's not as nice as my usual watches because I like to wear my analogs. You know, the automatic ones that you never have to charge, never have to put battery into them, never have to put them in the sun, nothing,
Yeah.
and you don't have to wind them up. That's my thing, and they have to be heavy. You
Yeah.
know, I need to be heavy. It's an organic thing. It's like, yeah, man, this
Mm.
is awesome. I've got minerals in my hand.
Quartz.
Well, no, not this one.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but they have jewels and stuff inside the machinery, which is kind of cool. But I would always wear things like the Apple Watch, for example, and I got that, and I was like, okay, let's monitor everything. Why not?
Hmm.
Um, wait, hold on. Okay, and then basically, what happened there is that in the beginning, when I started measuring my sleep, I also don't sleep. I've, my parents had two nannies for me when I was a baby because of the little bit of sleep that I had. And I don't recall a time in my life really where I've actually slept more than the, you know, average person. I
Hmm.
sleep and I'm usually okay with 3 hours every
Okay,
night.
cool. Yeah.
Uh, that's my groove right there. I'm cool.
You must be
Um,
very happy then.
well, yes, but lately, no.
Okay.
You see, it changes. It changes. And time changes the body,
Hmm.
and as time goes by, you need to adapt to the way that your body is now.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it's not because it's unhealthy. It might be very healthy, but you have different requirements because you're
Hmm.
either using more resources in one place or another. I know, for example, geek speak. I know my hypothalamus is gone. It's depleted at the end of every day.
All right. Yeah.
I know that because I use my brain a lot, and I know that my amygdala is probably hijacked 25% of the day,
Mm.
and
But do
all
you
this
know
stuff.
this because of your measuring tools or because
No, I
of
know this
doctor visits?
because of how I feel. I
Okay.
notice it
Yeah.
myself. The measuring tools, though, um, so they have helped me. They have helped me in many ways, but the key thing to understand for me with a measuring tool, with a wearable that measures biometrics, is that you need to sort of ignore that you have it,
Yeah, exactly.
and let your life just be.
Yeah, don't
Because
take it too seriously because, right?
if you take it too seriously, if you're there all the time, you're just looking at it. How many steps did I do? How much? What's my heart rate right now? This and that.
Mm.
And sometimes it's very useful. I was talking to our friend Alex yesterday, and he's like, "Well, I use it because one day I looked at it because I was wondering how my heart rate was, and boom, yeah, it was elevated. Time to relax." You know,
Right.
and this is true. You can feel it, but this is it. You feel it, and
Mm.
this is validation.
Yeah, I understand, but and that's actually my point is that you also feel that your heart rate is up. You know, you can just check it like that. The thing is that I'm traveling a lot these days, and that is very energetic, physically depleting. I would want to say. So I clearly I see it as a physical challenge, like sports, right? Being in a plane, Sao Paulo, 12 hours, immediately teaching stuff like that. And I'm very body aware these days, or at least I like to think so. And after a plane trip, I feel acidity in my body. You know, it
Hmm.
takes about 24 hours for it to go out. And if I do some sports and if I do some breathing, and if I eat like vegetables, no pasta, stuff like that, but really light and fruit stuff like that, it gets out of my body earlier. And I feel that okay, maybe I'm just lucky to be able to feel that. But that is stuff that is not measured by these measuring devices, and basically what I want to say is it's really cool because it's very interesting. I also had the polar, by the way, like 10 years ago, and I was walking around all the time for 1 or 2 weeks, exactly the same. And then a bit like it's good to train your feeling, a bit like how your heartbeat is and stuff like that. So it would be wise to use one of these measuring devices, one of these wearables, to test how good you can feel your own body. But I'm on a WhatsApp group where many people have a Aura ring, and there's really some people, like I don't want to say panicking, but quite worried because everybody has a resting heart rate of 40 and one guy of 60, and he cannot get it down, and he's pretty much taking it too seriously. So that is my problem with it, is that um, I believe that if we go a little bit less from the mind and more in the body, we get to sense better. It's pretty straightforward. We get to sense better. And the measure and the wearables make you less, that you could use them in two ways. Like wear them for a while and test how good you feel. So in that sense, it would make you more body aware. But if you're continuously checking how you're doing, what is happening, you go out of your body and you go into your mind. And I think that is my biggest problem with these wearable devices, that they make you go here instead of in the body. Does it
Well,
make sense?
it makes perfect sense. And one thing that I have to say about that is this: that when you're depending on them,
Yeah,
it makes you less body aware.
yeah,
So that's the key thing. I mean, that's why I'm saying if you have them, use them and ignore them.
yeah.
In the
Agreed.
mornings, I think I haven't synchronized my Fitbit in a day or two, but that's
Mm,
because I just don't really think about it. Sometimes I look at it and I look at it for the time, and that's okay.
mm.
And sometimes I look at it and it has my steps. I'm like, okay, and it's a good benchmark, but really, it's not going to stop me from doing what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah. It's great to use it like that, I think. I think that is like a good tip. What I would want to say is, yeah, it's very interesting, but don't take it too seriously. And you're saying like wear it and then ignore it. We're getting
Yeah,
together again.
yeah, that's it. We're
Thing,
conversing. Um,
but sorry, I have a question. You were saying like it helped me a lot. In what sense did it help you then?
okay, so the way it helped me was well, and many times it's helped me. It's
Hmm.
because sometimes I have a very high pain threshold, right?
Hmm.
Very high, so I can take I can take a beating. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
All right.
So I'll climb. I used to climb a lot, so I would climb somewhere, and I would be pretty exhausted, and I'd be in pain, um, but I would just continue. And our Polar had this fantastic app with it, or I think they still have it. It's Flow,
Yeah.
and at that point, what I would do is I'd see what my training load was, and when it went into the red, I knew that I needed to chill.
Uh,
But because my pain
mm,
threshold is high, and because I am so stubborn that I just want to get to where I want to get to, I would
yeah.
put myself into that area there, and that was a danger zone. And
Yeah.
after that, one thing I noticed is that if I listened to it, I'd be perfectly fine for the rest of the week. But if I went to that red zone
Mm,
and I overloaded in my training, I would crash for like a
mm,
whole day, and that whole day after was completely wasted. So it helped me a lot in that. In sleep, I must say that I monitor it for sure,
mm.
but mostly at the end of the week, and I see what's happened. Mainly because I know it depends on my movement and on the heart rate, but a lot of this is quite arbitrary to me.
That's another thing I'm wondering. How accurate is that the deep sleep measurement, for example?
Well, I'm
But
from
sorry.
the
Yeah.
the view that if you don't have an EEG, you're not going to be able to measure how your sleep patterns are.
So how can you take it seriously if you know it's not accurate?
The only thing that you could take seriously enough, and that's a really good question, because sometimes I'll be meditating and it shows me that I'm in deep sleep.
Oh, oh, but that's cool. So I like that. Now, now I'm triggered. But because then you're using it in the right way. Like, okay, so my meditation was this deep that I made maybe, I know we make delta waves in our deep sleep. That is not something a aura ring can measure, I think. But
It
in
can't.
like very deep meditation, also delta wave, you're also in your delta waves, like Tibetan monks, that have 10,000 hours or more of meditation time. um, they've measured delta waves with people that meditate. But that's pretty cool, I think.
That's okay, but the reality is that it's not measuring that. It's just
No,
measuring your movement and your heart rate.
yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is that when I meditate, I first focus a lot on my breath. And then sometimes,
Slow
depending
down.
on the meditation I'm doing, I end up breathing so small,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yes.
you know? And
Yeah,
that is like my heart rate drops. It goes like, dum, you know?
yeah, yeah.
It drops quite a lot. And I'm just chilling and I'm meditating and I feel great and I feel fantastic. And then I
Mm,
don't really notice time go by. You know, you're in this blank space and you're just dumping all that stuff that you've got in your head, right?
hmm.
So, but it's not measuring my brain activity. You can't measure your brain activity through your wrist. You can't measure it through your finger. You can't even measure it through your jugular. You need to go to the head.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've used this quite a bit before when I lived in Belgium. I had my own little EEG machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
Yes.
now you can get this. And we should be getting paid by you guys, because not your listeners and watchers, but by the people that we're talking about. So Fitbit, if you're listening, send us a couple of these. We'd love to
Yeah,
review them.
yeah. Well, so we have
But
Fitbit,
Muse,
Oura Ring, Apple Watch, Polar. Just send us stuff so we can give it away to people and tell them not
yes,
to take
and
it
we can
too
review it.
seriously.
Send
Yes.
us four. So one for Tim, one for me, one that we can give away and two that we can give away.
Yeah.
Also, we'd love to review a Bentley Continental,
Yes.
Bentley GT Continental.
Yes.
Would love to do that. Anyways,
I come to
anyways.
Spain for that. Yeah.
So there's a new wearable. It's called Muse, and I have Muse too, and it's actually like a headband, right?
All
And
right.
it looks absolutely ridiculous. It's this really thick band like that, and then it's like if I were wearing this that way, but thicker, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but it's fantastic. It only has a few. It's very limited in what it can do, but it's good enough to measure your brainwaves, and that's what you need.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that you can use for training yourself to meditate better if you're willing to spend 200 and plus euros in them, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's good. Um, but again, you can't exactly be walking around with this thing in your head 24/7. I mean, you
Well, you
could, and
could.
you're measuring a lot of stuff, but
But if you have teenager kids, they will just kick you out of the house because they will be so ashamed of you. So,
they're quite
like
embarrassed.
I couldn't. I couldn't. They're strong.
Well, I think I wouldn't, more than anything, because it's a bit uncomfortable to be wearing these things all the time.
Yeah.
Even this, I have to switch hands once in a while, because you go like, you move it a bit and you go, whoa, man, what's up
Hmm.
with that? It just, so you have to switch it around, because if not, your skin stops breathing.
Yeah.
And, we need to be aware of these things. So
So,
these things will measure things based on equations.
yeah, and the equations are not extremely intelligent yet. That's my personal view. And then another thing I would like to add, is this about sleep or is this about energy? What do we want in life? Do we want to sleep and, stick to the rules, to have my 8 hours of sleep, or do we want to have energy? Because that's what I'm missing with this. Like I rather help people develop their body, their mind, their personal development, because um, it's in the end about happiness, energy, happy hormones, health. A bit of money is welcome, of course. Um, and well, basically, if I look at myself 10 years ago, say this was my 100%, certain level. I believe in training light, for example. I've like 5 pillars that I use to get better in what I do, more productive, more focused, happier, or whatever. So my 100% was like this level. Now, 10 years later, my 50% is on the same level. So if you just keep on making baby steps, like every day, a bit of exercise, every day, a bit of breathing, and your shower cold, watch your nutrition a bit, like really, if you go to McDonald's every day, you can sport what you want, but it's really not healthy, I mean, and this is really straightforward. And there's a certain way of thinking, which you could simply define as, like glass half full thinking. Uh, and all these things actually create happy hormones that makes you ready to do whatever you want. So even if you sleep, like I've had moments where I sleep only 1 hour and I have like a full day of meetings and everything, and I'm super focused. Why is that? Because I have my tics and my trips, my tricks and tips. I mean, the things that I do to basically be okay. And mindset is a very important thing here. So if I would believe that if I don't sleep 8 hours, I would be completely screwed, I would actually be completely screwed. Well, if I think like, okay, I slept 3 hours, I don't feel optimal now, but I do some exercise, I do a bit of extra breathing, I sing on the street and whatever, and within 1 hour I feel good enough, which is good enough. We don't have to feel perfect because uh, like we can always be better, basically, And if
Okay.
you are good enough, and for example, in Barcelona, like I gave one of the best trainings ever, while my readiness was 53, 55, something like that, like, so, I truly believe that it's about happiness, happy moments, stuff like that. And what I'm actually saying is that I'm waiting for the update, because what I'm sensing that it's coming is like, for example, a t-shirt that measures your sweat, for example, and shows like you don't have enough iron, or you need a supplement there. Now that would be something very interesting. That actually measures your brain waves and takes this like a few steps further than just measuring your sleep based on your movement and your breath. Because it can measure breath because of your veins, your vessels are opening and closing.
Vasodilation, yeah. Mhm.
Um, so like I'm very much looking forward to the upgrades of these devices, where we get actually where we measure actually more than just what these things are measuring, and that actually give a little bit more of a full picture. And then still, you shouldn't take it too seriously, I believe, because that mindset
Yeah.
is most important.
Well, you see, there's a fine line here because, of course, you can transform from a biohacker into a grinder quite quickly, and
Mm,
we need to be careful with that because that basically means you start installing things in your own body. So,
mm, mm,
people are wearing RFIDs already in their skin,
mm.
GPS trackers. Why do you do that to yourself?
We
Um,
give it to your kids so you always know where they are.
Yeah, right. No,
Ah, that is
don't
just
ever. Just
terrible.
it's horrible. I
Just
mean,
I just trust them. That's far better.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And then there's this one guy who basically created synesthesia in himself, which is the confusion of the senses. And what he's done is he's installed an antenna to
Yeah.
see smells
All right.
or to see sounds, something like that.
All right.
And he's actually installed this. So there's a little antenna like that, and you can see him. He's on everywhere on YouTube and everything. This guy with this little alien-looking antenna just right there. That's his grinder. He's a grinder, so that's his grind. That's his biohack. So I look forward to some of the updates, and some of them I dread. Like
Yeah,
for
I agree.
example, what happens when nanotechnology and nanobots actually hit the market into, the into biometrics and stuff like that. So this
Mm,
means that we can get an injection with some sort of isotope or whatever that's got this little nanobots, and they're just basically reading everything we're doing in our body. I think that
mm,
is a pretty big step, and I'm not sure I'm looking forward to that.
me neither. I have to think slash feel about that because I know very well that my mind cannot grasp all the new things, and it is basically it gets stuck sometimes. But I'm also, and my body can actually feel like what is this about? It doesn't feel good to me right now. But I'm very
No.
quick with my opinions always, so I don't take that all too seriously. But yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, so where does it lead to? You know, I don't believe in Armageddon, by the way. I believe the world is only becoming more beautiful, especially if we learn to tap into our own physiology and become like independent of whatever measuring devices or medicine. You only have to go to the doctor if you break your arm. So, like in 10% of the cases. That is basically my vision. We were talking about it the other another time, and I was like stuttering, and I couldn't say it. My vision is that we're able to tap into our subconscious and fully use our minds and our bodies, so that we become, you could say, superhuman. Be more focused, have more control, whatever, but also become less dependent on medicines and other forms of authority that
Yeah.
we don't per se need.
Yes, yeah, I agree totally with that. This
Mm,
world could be a beautiful place, and it can just get better and better and better. And I believe that if we reach into our humanity, we're going to be able to achieve that sooner than we think.
mm,
But I also believe that if we don't, that, at the end of the day, we need this world more than this world needs us.
mm.
It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
If humanity disappears, the world will continue.
Mm,
The world does
yeah,
not need us. In fact, we've abused it really very, very much up until now. But I do
mm,
believe that we have the power to make it a really beautiful place, and sooner than we actually think, and to fix
mm,
a lot of the issues that we have already created. If we
mm.
don't, however, and we continue to allow these clowns to rule the world, the clowns I'm talking about: the British
Of course,
Parliament, the clown
yeah.
in North Korea, the clown in Venezuela, the clown in the United States.
And Brazil has a clown these days. Yeah,
Yeah, you see, Mexico just got rid of one of his biggest clowns. So, you just have this massive circus of absurdity
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
And if we don't fix it at some point through good leadership, good emotional intelligence, and so on, well, the bacteria that's left is going to be fantastically happy feasting on the rot of humanity.
Yeah,
You know?
and what you're actually saying, because to get back to the devices,
Yeah,
is that where does it start? It doesn't start at pointing the finger to Donald Trump, like you are crazy. It starts with ourselves. You
well,
want to change the
absolutely.
world, start with yourself, and like a start could be a wearable. But like I rather, I'm happy I have it, and I can share it with friends now. And maybe sometimes I will use, but I will not use it. It's not like this is not for me for daily use. My daily use is everyday exercise, everyday breathing, ending my shower cold, watch my nutrition, or basically liking healthy food. It's very simple. The more you eat it, the more you like it. And then a certain way of thinking that I call the power of paradox. It's not for now, but it's a way to immediately lose a belief system that doesn't work for you, basically, within like a minute.
And I think we should talk about the power of paradox next time.
Yeah, maybe. Well, that is interesting, and thank you. But I'm also triggered by your remark in the beginning about biometrics. So
Oh, but I mean the
let's
neurohacking.
yes,
Yeah.
neurohacking, because I have a great idea, and I would like to share that with you. So, well, if people want to react, what would you prefer, power of paradox or neurohacking? Did you say,
Neurohacking. Yeah.
or neurohacking?
So leave your comments below, and we'll be happy to do whichever show you want us to do. Um, Back to wearables, though, I have a really good use for them, and it's not about the device itself that it's good or bad. It's about the use you give it. You
Yeah.
know. So I have a really good use for wearables when it comes to certain coaching clients, and that is because, of course, when you're coaching someone in leadership through emotional intelligence is a big part of it. And a lot of the times, the emotional intelligence, there's a block, and it's a physical one. Yeah. And one part of it is that we need to understand our physiology, and we need to understand our three brains. So once we understand how this works, how the heart works, and how the gut works,
Those are the three brains.
Yeah,
the
those three
head,
brains.
the heart, and the gut. I
Of
like
the
it.
gut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those three brains. Once we understand that, then it becomes easier to understand our reactions to emotional situations, because you'll feel it in your gut and you go, is it cold? Is it hot? Is it pressure? Is it pain? Is it butterflies? Is it rumbling? Is it, what is it? And you understand the heart, how it feels. You understand how your heart rate goes, and that's useful for that moment. You understand how your head goes. So if you're able to understand those things in every emotional situation that you have, little by little you'll get to know yourself more and more.
Yeah.
And this is important. And once you get what I have done is that I have a special program where I actually use wearables to help people monitor their certain behaviors. So when they feel a certain emotion, they'll go straight to their wearable.
Okay.
They can see their heart rate, and they can take a note of it, and then they can see how they sleep at night.
Yes.
It's not necessarily the length of sleep, but they need to understand if they're rested in the morning or not, what the patterns showed, and the habits or the activities you engaged in the night before.
Yes, very intelligent. Yeah, that
So
really
if you
helps
do
people.
that helps.
Because if you learn to know yourself better, you're able to be more vulnerable and you can connect with others better. In other words, back to you, your emotional intelligence goes up. The more you know yourself, the higher your emotional intelligence.
Exactly. And biometrics can help understand your physiology better. This is it. If you use it as a tool for that, I think it is an invaluable
Amazing.
tool.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Like
So I think we overextended our time. Surprise, surprise.
Really?
Yeah. But so this is a moment for our Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, I know that we have a couple from Zoran. This first question is, can you explain how to measure oxygen saturation? So oxygen saturation is measured in a percentage. 98 to 99 is good.
Yeah, I know a bit about that. It measures your oxygen percentage of your blood.
Yes.
Yeah, and through, for example, Wim Hof method breathing, first you breathe the oxygen in your blood, and it doesn't go through your muscles yet. Well, let's skip that part. It's a bit technical. See the second talk of us about the science and physiology of Wim Hof method. But basically, after that, the oxygen goes to your muscle and to your nerve tissue. Yeah, so you can store more oxygen in your muscles. This is why Wim Hof method breathing is so amazing for top sporters or sporters in general. Because basically, within 5 to 10 minutes, I can show you that you're stronger just by breathing. And this is because you put oxygen in your muscle tissue. Now, if you have a fully saturated body like muscle tissue, nerve tissue, full of oxygen, then you have more oxygen in your system than without. Agree?
Yeah.
But a saturation meter just measures the oxygen level of your blood. So it doesn't measure everything, basically. So you can store more oxygen than 100% according to the saturation level, simply because the machine is correct, but it measures your blood saturation and not your muscle tissue. So compared to that 100% of a saturation machine, you could have more oxygen in your body by storing it in your muscle tissue.
Oh, that's pretty brilliant.
Is that an answer, Zoran?
Well, we'll wait for his reply there. Also, sometimes you can actually measure it through the blood that actually comes out of your ear.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually more accurate than using I think it's infrared, isn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know
I
either.
have no clue.
Yeah,
I
but
guess.
it's using some sort of light. I believe it's using some sort of light that we have. If you're talking about specifically what light is used and what technology is used for it, I don't think that we're the right people to answer that for you.
No.
Now, Zoran again asked if you could please explain breathing. He really respects it, and that your advice is top. But I think for that, you can go back to our first and second video, right?
Yes.
That's the best thing you
First,
should
second,
do.
and maybe third.
And
Yeah,
maybe third
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, definitely, because like if we start there, it's a bit boring for the other listeners that have heard this already. So, please go back to the first and the second video that we made.
And we explain it quite into depth, and we even go into the biology of it, the biochemistry of it, and everything.
Yeah, and you can find
It's
it
pretty
on
cool.
my YouTube channel, by the way. So if he goes to Tim van der Vliet YouTube, you see Peter Jansen and Tim van der Vliet 1 to 5.
Yeah. So it's all right there. It's quite simple, and this is why we're creating this library of resources, so you guys can just go in and
Yeah.
pick up any one of our. I think we can call them episodes now, can't we?
Episodes, yeah. And Zoran, by the way, if you're still here, if you ever done a Wim Hof training, welcome. I don't know where you live, but I'm kind of, like anywhere. And if not me, you can find another instructor, because there's a few. So if you're interested in that, you should you should go to one of these trainings. But I would check the instructor first, if they're really into that, because not everybody's a nerd. Like I'm a nerd. I love this stuff, but not everybody. But you're welcome on any of my trainings, and we can drink a coffee afterwards, and I like put numbers in your head until you that you will your wearable will probably say like you've had like a very wild night because you were dreaming too much or something about numbers and about biochemics and stuff like that. But it's super interesting.
So this is what happens when two nerds get together and start discussing biohacking.
Yeah.
So Eve says that that he did the Wim Hof workshop, and that it's amazing. Yes.
Thanks. Yeah. It is super transforming.
So the one thing I want to do is I want to do it with you. I want to actually see you and do it. So
because I have news. I became a level 3 teacher actually.
Oh, fantastic!
Which means there's like, I think 20 people in the world. It's really like the inner crowd of Wim. That sounds a bit arrogant. I didn't mean it like that, but there's only 20 people in the world that are level 3, and I'm super happy and very honored, and I feel very much also that this doesn't mean anything. I'm not taking this too seriously, because every training, I'm focused and sharp again, because everything is always different, so I don't take it for granted. But I thought that maybe that's nice news, like
It's really good news.
Yeah,
It's
so
really good news.
yeah, well, we're gonna meet anywhere, like anyway, anywhere, somewhere in the world. So I'm looking forward to that.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, me too. It's going to be an incredible exchange. I was going to say something for everybody. Look, one of the things that you just said right now just really resonated with me. So my advice to everybody is very simple. You get to wake up, and when you do, realize that everything is new. Every time you wake up, everything is new. And how wonderful that is, because it's true. And if you just put your mind to that, you will never stop learning.
Mm.
And that gets rid of arrogance a bit, doesn't it?
No, but it's true. No, yeah, you never stop learning. That's like
You never.
that's super humble. And it's true. And this is what I mean with that evolutionary jump, that we're able to tap in our own physiology is once you learn more, you think like, oh, there's another 100% more to learn, or 1,000%. And once you're there, you notice that, like it is infinite what we can learn. I mean, time is infinite, so must be our learning, right? And that is a very, I feel that is actually my perspective on life, or one of my, like quotes you could say, like the best teacher is the forever student. And I don't want to say I'm the best teacher, but I am a forever student, because if you stay curious, you actually don't become arrogant. Although this may sound arrogant, I really mean it. Like
Yeah,
stay
it's true.
curious, keep on learning, and growth is, I believe, is immense. And I can
It's never
just,
ending.
it's never ending, and I can just talk about my own life, and I'm relatively very happy. So it works for me basically.
It's true. I mean, we learn forever. And I mean, what can you really say about the person who believes that they've learned everything and they've been there and they got to where they wanted to get to? And whenever I speak to somebody and they tell me I'm exactly where I wanted to be my entire life, you know what my first reaction is?
Hmm.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Because you might as well die, because if you're
It's like,
exactly where you want to be, what else is there now? What can you
yeah,
say about someone who's arrived at their destination except, yeah, they're there, and now what? And now
I
what?
don't
Is it
I
there?
don't believe that either. It sounds very mediocre, and mediocrity is maybe that's one of my biggest fears, like to be mediocre and to have like
Yeah.
a life where I'm okay, but I rather run sometimes and fall and try and go too far, and like buy an aura ring and then put it off again, and like keep on keep on researching, keep on playing, and that goes together with falling, of course. But if you learn how to fall, you don't have to fear falling so much anymore.
That's right. And if you learn how to take those risks, eventually you'll learn how to relax when
Hmm.
you're taking the risk, and there's less that can go wrong. Because remember one thing, nothing good ever comes out of panicking.
No,
That's it.
agree.
Simple as
Yeah.
that. First time I jumped out of a plane, right? I jump out. My instructors are one to my left and one to the right. I turn to the right. That's where we exited from. And it goes, okay, just go 1, 2, and then 3. Okay, so I got it wrong. I thought it was 1, 2, 3. So I jumped
Sounds.
beforehand. I didn't really care. I just jumped. But right behind me was a guy who panicked when he jumped.
Uh-huh.
So he started tumbling, 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 and they battled to try to get to him. So we watched the video after. This is why we know, because I was below him. I wasn't
Yeah,
looking up.
yeah, of
So
course.
they struggled to grab him and then deploy his parachute. At
What
the
a
end of about
nightmare.
10 jumps, the guy was relaxing, chilling, and it was all this. It was just a click in his head. And we started talking, and I said, doesn't it feel like it's just a pillar of air that you're pushing against and that's holding you?
Hmm.
And he went, oh, so like a pillar with a platform, and then, ah, oh, I get it. And he just got it. And then his next jump, he was relaxing because he actually felt that pillar.
Hmm.
He stopped the panic. And with that relaxation of knowing, he was able to do a perfect, beginner's jump.
Yeah, cool.
But absolutely amazing. And the same thing happens when you're driving. The moment you start relaxing when you're in a
Yeah,
car, that's the moment you start driving well.
yeah, absolutely. So it's all about that. How can you learn to relax, especially in stressful moments? And this is, like I don't want to sell the Wim Hof method too much, but this is what you learn during a day training with Wim Hof method. To exactly know what's happening when you panic. If you panic, because you don't have to, maybe you're natural, it's possible too, but the cold water can be like a panicky moment. And then from that panicky moment, by just slowing down your breathing, it's just 2 words. Like a lot of trainings that I give, you could summarize it into 2 words. Breathe slowly, that's it. But if you're able from that stressing moment to slow down your breathing, it's like a total biohack into your brain. You calm down, you know exactly what to do. I think maybe this, did I tell you the story already about the 2 guys and the lion?
No.
No. Okay, so 2 good friends are walking in the jungle, and suddenly they hear this sound, from the jungle, and suddenly there's this lion, the animal, the cat-like animal. The lion is standing in front of them. And of course, they totally freak out. But one of them is very calmly, he goes down and he does his shoelaces, right? And the other one is standing over him and screaming in his face like, are you crazy? Are you nuts? You think you can outrun a lion? And he just looks up and he says, no, but I can outrun you.
Yeah. That's it.
What was his secret? 2 words. Breathe slowly.
That's it. You just need to
And
take it.
what to do. Yeah.
There's Simon Bolivar used to say, dress me slowly because I'm in a hurry.
I like that. Yeah, hurry slowly is one of my mental notes. If
My
we get
grandmother always used to
overstressed,
say that to me.
yeah.
So
I think
it just makes sense.
I think we are a little bit over the half an hour that we planned.
Yeah, about 20 minutes off, I think.
Okay,
23.
well, still within an hour, so we're doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good. So yeah, and the reality is it's the same thing for emotional intelligence. In emotional intelligence, you need to learn how to slow down because there's a little gap, a very small gap in between the stimulus and your reaction,
Mm-hmm.
where your destiny is shaped and formed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you learn how to expand that gap to a point where you can make rational decisions instead of impulsive decisions, your destiny is going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
again,
then, and the how is like interesting, and I totally agree. And how do you do that? Learn to slow down your breathing.
learn to slow down your breathing and learn how to recognize the signs in your body.
Yes.
Learn to understand yourself. And this is important. And this is where the Wim Hof method, biohacking, and emotional intelligence converge in
Yes,
slowing down, isn't it?
it is. And
It
that is
is.
that is another, like a friend of mine, her yoga. I've never seen somebody with a yoga exercise like hers. And I said, like, you're the first person I see that has total control. I can show you a video later, but it's perfect, standing on your hands, and it's amazing. And her name is Amazing, actually. It's amazing. The thing is, what she says is, you can only reach it through surrender, through letting go. So how do you get total control? By slowing down, by breathing into your posture and letting go. Not go over your 100%, but go up to 60, 70, 80%, and stay there and keep on training baby steps, and then your 100% moves up. So this is actually the power of paradox. Like you get total control by actually giving up the idea of total control, by letting go, by surrendering.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah,
But it's true. It is very, very true. You need to know how to let go as well. It's an important part of the whole process.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're at the end of it. We have no more questions here.
All right. Well,
But
probably later. Yeah.
based on on whatever you guys tell us, we will do our next talk.
Yeah. So that's neurohacking, power of paradox, or I don't know. Like whatever comes up in your mind.
Yeah,
Let it
suggest
go.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, suggest something. So those are the two options we give you. The third option is suggest something and, ask other people to give an opinion about it. And, we'll go for the one that has the most requests.
Yeah, or the
So
most
does that,
likes.
yeah, the most
know.
likes, the most shares.
No. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
thanks a lot. It was
Fantastic. Thank you very
nice
much.
again. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care of yourself, my friend.
Yeah, man.
All
You
right.
too. Talk to
Bye.
you next week or something. Bye.
Yes, bye.
Bye bye.